Do you remember this conversation with Director Tan about the mutiny on the Nexus?
Kandros mentioned something about hitting the Scourge. How did it play out?
Criminal elements took advantage of the emergency and preyed on people's fears. An uprising followed. We had no choice but to turn to the Krogan to deal with them. They crushed the mutiny and the criminals were banished.
This is only Tan's biased perspective of the mutiny, but the true story is much more complex. If you are ever curious to know the whole story, you'll find it in the novel Mass Effect Andromeda: Nexus Uprising. Some of the novel's plot points are mentioned in the game, but these instances only give a surface-level view of what transpired aboard the Nexus. Nexus Uprising fills these gaps with great detail, showing how challenging and terrifying it was to be on the Nexus as it arrived in Andromeda. In this video, I'll tell you a bit about the book and then give recommendations on whether or not it's worth reading. For your convenience, this video is divided into chapters. The review section will contain spoilers for Nexus Uprising and some light spoilers for the Mass Effect trilogy and Andromeda, so watch with caution. Mass Effect Andromeda: Nexus Uprising, written by Jason M. Hough and K.C. Alexander, is the first tie-in novel and prequel to Mass Effect Andromeda. It tells the story of the Andromeda Initiative's troubled beginnings and the tribulations endured in the mission's early months. It is primarily told from the perspective of Sloane Kelly, an ex-Alliance soldier hired as the Andromeda Initiative's Director of Security. The story also has moments experienced by other major characters from Mass Effect Andromeda, such as Nakmor Kesh and Jaren Tan. The goal of the Andromeda Initiative is to travel to and colonize the Andromeda Galaxy, crossing millions of light-years of space while in cryogenic stasis to reach their destination. However, things don't go according to plan, and the Initiative is put to the test, facing a threat no one had anticipated. Sloane Kelly is abruptly awoken from cryosleep and is met with a devastating station-wide emergency that begins a harrowing struggle for survival. Nexus Uprising is a pretty good read, but it is understandably not for everyone. So, here are a few considerations I have in mind for folks interested in picking up this novel. One of the best things going for Nexus Uprising is that it offers a lot more depth into the backstory and characters of Mass Effect Andromeda. In my opinion, this makes it highly recommended reading for Mass Effect fans who have already played Andromeda and are looking to jump into another playthrough. It will enhance your experience of the story and perhaps even inform some of the choices you make, especially when dealing with characters like Sloane Kelly and Director Tan. For those who haven't yet played Andromeda, I recommend the book for the same reasons, but I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary to read beforehand in order to enjoy your first playthrough of the game. If you're hesitant about diving in, try playing Andromeda first, and if you had a good time, then circle back to Nexus Uprising. Having read this book will not fundamentally alter the quality of Andromeda's story, however, so those who are averse to the game may not be immediately interested in reading Nexus Uprising. That said, the novel does offer a more serious tone as compared to the game, which fans of the Mass Effect trilogy may enjoy. Moreover, it has the right feel of a good Mass Effect story, which makes it well worth reading. Coming from the perspective of having played Andromeda before reading Nexus Uprising, you're on the edge of your seat, waiting for the mutiny to happen for most of the story. We know it happens, and even a few details about it, but the specifics are never touched on in the game. About halfway through the book, any new challenge or complication that arises leaves you thinking, oh no, here it comes. This will be the spark that starts the uprising. The actual moment this happens is impressively left for later in the book. It leaves you with a new, better understanding of what happened before Ryder and the Hyperion arrive at the beginning of Mass Effect Andromeda. My favorite aspect of Nexus Uprising is characterization. The characterization is pretty consistent with the versions of the characters in the game. Sloane Kelly in Nexus Uprising feels like Sloane Kelly in Andromeda, Kesh feels like Kesh, and so on. In most cases, the characterization in Nexus Uprising significantly enhances the characters as they appear in Andromeda. So, even though the book version of Sloane Kelly is in line with the game version is better after having read the book. One character who greatly benefits from this quality, and is an outstanding example of characterization for me, is Jaren Tan. After reading Nexus Uprising and getting to know Tan's inner thoughts and perspective, all the interactions with him in Andromeda are much more engaging. While it was pretty easy to see where Tan was coming from to begin with, having experienced his thought process in Nexus Uprising gives more detail and depth to the decisions he makes in Andromeda, and how he communicates with Ryder and the other members of the Initiative's leadership. It's a notable case where having read Nexus Uprising makes the experience of playing Andromeda much more fulfilling. The way Tan runs the Initiative in Nexus Uprising is a big reason why Nexus personnel are scared and angry. One, because no one even knows who he is, so they don't respect him. Two, because he treats people like machines and reduces them to numbers, or pieces on a board. He has no inclination to appeal to their emotions or to empathize. This idea is made very clear in Calix's talk with Sloane later in the book, where he says that leadership treats people like VI. Tan has certainly grown since the events of Nexus Uprising, but not by much, which helps make the book version consistent with the game version, while also shining more light on what makes Tan the way he is in Mass Effect Andromeda. Another prominent character in Nexus Uprising is Jian Garson. For being so crucial to the Andromeda Initiative, she hardly appears in the game. Jian Garson is more present in the book, though not by much. She is only physically present in a few scenes, but her influence is felt throughout the book. Nexus Uprising excels at demonstrating how remarkably charismatic a leader Garson is. She always knows the best things to say and at the perfect time. She inspired many of those who joined the program to embark on a truly terrifying mission when you think about it. Anyone who joins would be giving up everything they hold dear in the Milky Way to embrace the unknown in an unexplored galaxy. Whatever would happen on the other side, Garson promised a better future for everyone. One that leaves all the old wounds and conflict to the Milky Way behind. One that upholds cooperation and prosperity for all. Those who joined the Andromeda Initiative, or many of them at least, bought wholeheartedly into Garson's vision. This belief in optimism is pivotal throughout the story, affecting each character in myriad personal ways. The inspiration she imparts to people is palpable, much more so in Nexus Uprising than in Mass Effect Andromeda. After the events of the book, it's easy to see how that vision crumbled, and that optimism similarly died for me as well. So by the time a reader would dive into the game, it's challenging to empathize with the hope that Ryder and the other members of the Hyperion feel, which I find extremely interesting. Reading through Nexus Uprising before an Andromeda playthrough sort of puts the reader/player more on the side of the Nexus leadership, skeptical and perhaps a bit jaded. It adds a feeling of importance and gravity to Ryder's mission, and the accomplishments they make along the way. The most important characters in Nexus Uprising, though, are Sloane Kelly and Calix Corvanus. Those who have played Andromeda will recognize Sloane as the leader of the outcasts at Kadara Port, and the book does a phenomenal job of showcasing the road that led there from her start as the Andromeda Initiative's security director. The game paints her as an almost stereotypical mob boss, but Nexus Uprising provides much needed depth into her backstory, making her more sympathetic and more interesting overall. Sloane is one of the better leaders in the Nexus regime during the book because she leads by example. There are several instances of this throughout the book, but the way she comports herself during the mutiny is particularly notable. In the face of chaos, Sloane takes into account the effect her actions have on everyone around her, especially the security officers who follow her. She demonstrates the proper way to handle civilians, knowing that her subordinates will follow the exact same script once they have to handle these situations away from her guidance. This is the kind of leadership that would have benefited the Nexus earlier in the story, and she even laments not taking more decisive action sooner. Yet, it's too little too late by the time the mutiny begins. Calix Corvanus is the chief life support officer on the Nexus, responsible for maintaining the station's critical systems, like oxygen production and overseeing the release of personnel from cryostasis. After months of nearly non-stop work trying to prevent the Nexus's systems from failing, amidst the numerous other missteps and failures from Nexus leadership, Calix and his crew end up starting the mutiny. The resulting bloodshed and conflict really only put the Nexus in a worse position, but it's interesting to note that Calix's mutiny began with good intentions. Calix left the Milky Way to get away from the frustrations he experienced as a result of Turian meritocracy. He was relieved from his duties aboard a frigate for disobeying a commanding officer who tried to pin the ship's demise on Calix, and the entire engineering crew left with him out of protest. Calix was fed up with leaders coming to power based on a calculated decision that played out. The Andromeda Initiative was led by truly capable people with shared purpose. It was a way to escape the politics of the Milky Way. However, things changed when Garson died. The initiative ended up being run by people like Tan, opportunistic politicians just like the Turian meritocracy. Sloan wanted to leave the Milky Way for similar reasons, which creates an interesting dynamic between these two. Nexus Uprising showcases the poignant parallel between Sloan and Calix. Both are individuals wanting to start a fresh life away from the bureaucratic nature of the Milky Way. They are also terrific leaders who command a fiercely loyal bunch of people. It takes little stretch of the imagination to see how, if the roles were reversed, Sloan likely would have found herself in the same situation that Calix did. Thanks for watching. If you end up checking out Nexus Uprising, please leave a comment to let me know what you think, and be sure to put appropriate spoiler warnings for your discussion. If you have any questions about the story or characters, please also feel free to comment below and I'll try to answer them or get around to them in a future video. If you liked this video, be on the lookout for my coverage of the other Mass Effect novels and comic books. I also have several theory videos coming, so stay tuned. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.